In this episode of the Locked On NBA Big Board Podcast, me and my brother James, we are going to discuss the Rutgers freshman dynamic duo, Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper. I know James has some stuff to get off his chest about Ace Bailey. We're going to share our thoughts on Dylan Harper. And also, we're going to talk about expectations versus reality. Can this Rutgers freshman duo lead Rutgers to the NCAA Tournament? Stay tuned. Big shout out to each and every person that has made the Locked On NBA Big Board Podcast your first listen of the day. I'm your host, Rafael Barlowe, along with my brother, James Barlowe. And before I get into this episode, I want to let you know that it is brought to you by GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. If you are not subscribed to the YouTube channel, what is taking so long? Please subscribe, like, share, leave a comment. Make sure that you click the bell so you can be notified every time we drop, because episodes are coming to you 5 days a week at the minimum. Some weeks you might get 6, some weeks you might get 7. You might get anywhere between 20 and 25 episodes in a month, because the Locked On NBA Big Board Podcast is your daily source for NBA draft content. And in this episode, we're going to talk about Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper, 2 of the top 5, some say even 2 of the top 3 freshmen in the country, NBA draft picks on one team. And the first question I want to ask you, James, is why do you think they went to Rutgers? I know you are the man that figures if you are a prospect, you need to go somewhere where you can get busy. And Rutgers gives them the opportunity to get busy. So hopefully I didn't answer the question beforehand. But
it doesn't. Listen. Bravo. Kudos, fellas. This is how it's supposed to be. Go to the place that's going to give you the best opportunity to be you, give you usage, and you can prove that you can play winning basketball. So them going to Rutgers, I believe they're the 2 highest rated recruits ever. And especially to get both of those guys in the same class, I think you're going to get a good feel for who they are as players, because they're going to have every opportunity to make a name for themselves. And it's a trickle-down effect. I mean, like, I don't know the kid's name off the top of my head, but they got a 4-star 2025 kid that just committed to Rutgers, I believe either today or yesterday. So it's like, you know, you can be a trailblazer 5-star recruit, kids. Like, do it. So I'm all for it.
Now, Rutgers last year were below 500. A lot of guys left. And we'll get to this in the last segment. But do you think that having 2 elite freshmen can lead a team to the NCAA tournament? Or do you think it's going to be difficult just because college basketball is getting older? Like I did an article today on my NBA Big Board newsletter, and I was talking about some of the freshmen that they're sophomores now, but some of the highly touted freshmen from last year's class that ended up transferring, guys that I thought could have been first-round picks that are now in their second school. And a few of those guys didn't get an opportunity to really play because they were 18 years old behind 24-year-old grown men. But also, that just shows that college basketball is getting older. It can be tough for young teams, and this Rutgers team is going to be really young. So my question is, do you think 2 dynamic freshmen who could be top 3 picks can lead a team that was 15 and 17 last year to the NCAA tournament?
I think 2 dynamic freshmen can. If you look back at, and it's funny, he draws that same comparison, at least to some, but Cade Cunningham, they snuck him in to the tournament at Oklahoma State his freshman year. And, you know, like 2 dynamic guys can do it. Even though this team, I mean, if they're a 500 team last year, you figure you get 2
below 500. They were
below 500 team. Yeah. You get 2 NBA players in the mix. I think you give yourself a pretty good chance. It's funny, they got a kid on the team I told you about, Raf, just offline. Jordan Durkak. He's a transfer from Maryback. He can hoop.
He was the player of the year in that conference.
Yeah. He can't shoot but like he has everything else. Like off the dribble, he can really, really pass. I think he gives himself an opportunity to put himself in position to make some money down the road. NBA was probably a stretch, but he's on a bigger stage playing with those guys. But they'll have some guys. And then like these two guys, Harper and Bailey, they complement each other because they don't play the same position. So I think they give themselves a chance. And that's really all you can ask for, especially in the Big 20 conference.
I was about to say what, but you're right. It's like 20 teams across the country. And I just saw something today that I guess Big 10 basketball is going to be played on Friday nights on ESPN this year, which is, I think that's interesting. And so I guess that's additional exposure for guys like, Rutgers and just across the conference. Do you think they can live up to the high expectations? Because again, right now on most draft boards and most people that you talk to, both are inside the top 5 and maybe inside the top 3. High expectations. Do you think they can live up to the expectations from an individual standpoint, both of them collectively, and from a team standpoint? Because if Rutgers doesn't have a successful season, then the blame is going to all be on them.
So what's a successful season? Winning 20 games, making the tournament? That's
I would say making the tournament is a successful season. I mean, they were 15 and 17 last year.
Yeah, I think they could make the tournament. I'd have to look at their schedule to see who they, are playing as far as their off-season schedule or conference schedule. It doesn't matter, but
that conference schedule it's so long now.
But at the same time, you still need to. It is true. You still need to rack up a quality non-conference win to see who, to pad your whatever it is that they do. Yep. So I get that, but as far as like, could both of these guys go in the top 5? Absolutely, and they'll be graded on if the team isn't good, then you can say, oh man, they're young. They're young. They played against everybody's older in college basketball. These dudes are 23, 24. Like they'll get a pass. The expectations will be, I guess, not met is if they don't play well, along with them not making the tournament. Then you're looking at those guys like, okay, why did you decide to go there? And then maybe my whole spiel about guys going to these non-blue blood schools looks crazy because their draft stock drops. But I don't foresee that happening anyway.
So right now, I think I read in Lindy's and then I think maybe Blue Ribbon. I looked over both of them. If I'm not mistaken, they're predicted to finish anywhere between 8th and 9th in the Big 10, which is middle of the pack.
You'll take that because the Big 10 is gonna get like what 12 schools in.
We'll see.
Man, but they might have the tournament.
Yeah, they're predicted to finish in the middle of the pack. And so I wonder if they are 9 or 10 in the conference, is that good enough to get into the NCAA tournament? But you brought up something that I totally didn't think about. They kind of made sure that Cade Cunningham snuck in. Weren't they supposed to be on probation?
Man, probation, man. And then listen, I don't know if it was the year before or 2 years before they got Trae Young in there, man. Like I feel like if you give yourself a chance, man, the NCAA is gonna do what they have to do. I mean, that's just my opinion, but what do I know?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's NCAA is a business, and if you got two guys that are bringing excitement and buzz, I do think that they may lean towards getting them in.
Who got in this year instead of Indiana State? It was some team.
Yeah, I forgot.
Indiana State should have got in, but
yeah, was it Virginia?
Don't even get me started.
Was it? I think it might have been Virginia. I don't know. Whatever it was, I remember thinking like Indiana State is more exciting. It had to have been Virginia because they only scored like 42 points.
Don't get me started on them, man.
All right, when we return, this is the segment James has been waiting for. He is going to share his thoughts on Ace Bailey. I did a solo episode on my personal scouting report on Ace Bailey, but James has the stage where he's going to share his thoughts on Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper because I saw a comparison comparing Dylan Harper to a bigger Jalen Brunson. So I'm going to get James's opinion on that. But before we get into the second segment, I want to talk to you about my favorite app when it comes to purchasing tickets, and it is GameTime, because GameTime makes it easy to save money on sports, concerts, comedy, theaters, and more. And they have this all-in pricing where you can toggle this feature and the total cost shows up front. There's no surprise fees at checkout. I know I hate when I purchase tickets to an event. The ticket says $50. I go to checkout and it ends up being like $150 because there is a bunch of surprise fees. With GameTime, all you have to do is toggle that feature, no surprises, and then you get a panoramic view of your seat in the app before you purchase. They also will credit you 110% of the difference if you find a cheaper price. That is their lowest price guarantee. And also, your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So you can take the guesswork out of buying tickets with GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, use the redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download GameTime today. What time is it? Game time. Once again, thank you for making the Locked On NBA Big Board podcast your first listen of the day. Now, for your second listen, I believe you're going to enjoy the Locked On NBA podcast because there's no offseason in the NBA, and Locked On NBA provides daily basketball analysis from the national and the local experts, and you get it in 30 minutes or less. Know what keeps you as informed or as entertained as Locked On NBA. It is available on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. It is part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. I mean, like every single day. All right. Ace Bailey. The stage is yours. I'll be quick with mine. I have some concerns about Ace Bailey. Just the shot selection. I love the talent. I love the physical tools. I love the competitive fire. I do think that he has an extremely high ceiling. I think Cooper Flagg is going to be the safer pick because Cooper Flagg has a high floor. But I actually believe, and I know I'm probably going to draw some criticism for this, but I think Ace Bailey has a higher ceiling than Cooper Flagg. But Cooper Flagg has a much higher floor. I think there's very little bust potential with Cooper Flagg. Wow. I think Ace Bailey could be dynamite, or he could be a guy that is really talented and his style of play kind of makes it difficult. But that's just my opinion. But I think there's a chance that Ace Bailey could be the number one pick.
Rob, I don't know how. Let me start this. Ace Bailey is extremely talented, right?
Yeah.
Shooting ability is very much there. We wouldn't be talking about him if he wasn't an NBA prospect. I hope he makes $1 billion. He probably will make $1 billion playing basketball.
Here we come. He's loading up for the however.
However,
this is like when somebody says, "No offense to you, man, but it's something."
Look, I just don't want it. I don't want it to sound like I'm. I don't want to be a hater, man. Not intentionally, at least. And I'm not a hater. He's a top 5 pick. He should be a top 5 pick. But his shot selection is terrible, bro.
That can be fixed.
Can it? Here's the thing. And I don't want to say, oh man, his teammates weren't good in high school. Like he's not the only kid that went to a public school, right? But like the shot selection, and he's fairly limited off the dribble. It's a concern, man. He takes shot from above the rim pull-up jumpers, man. Like, what are we doing here? And again, there's a diet of jump shots that you're taking as the man in high school. You're gonna get leeway. I'm not saying you gotta go out there and play some analytics. That's not me. All right, I'm not saying that. However, some of these shots that he's taking they're just terrible shots. And again, habits can be broken. I get it, but even if you say best case scenario, he cleans up his shot selection. Is he a playmaker? What has he shown you as a playmaker? Now, he shows flashes of making passes when he wants to, but how often does he want to? Is he putting the ball on the rock to get on the ground, to get to the rim? No. Everything he does is to shoot a contested pull-up jumper. I have concerns, Rafael. Listen to me. There's a stretch of games on Synergy. All right, it's just 8 games. All right, I don't know the scheduling, the time frame, but in 8 games on Synergy, 24 field goal attempts per game, 4 free throw attempts per game. I can't get down with that ratio. And on top of that, he's got a negative assist to turnover ratio, right? We saw in the McDonald's game, he still was taking bad shots. Now, you taking bad shots in the McDonald's game, and again, the McDonald's game, it wasn't the NBA All-Star game. It wasn't just come down here and no, it wasn't that. Like kids were competing. He still was taking bad shots. And you look down the line, you probably got 7, 8 NBA players with you. I think the habit is going to be tough to break. And I mean, like there was a play the last game that they played, and maybe it was a hating uncle, a hating dad, but he threw up a shot, and the dude, the cameraman that was filming the game, he went and he was like, he did the come on man, like Boosie on Vlad TV interview. It's just like his shot selection isn't just like questionable, it's like bad. And again, great talent, shooting talent is there. When he takes good shots, he makes them. But he takes a lot of tough shots. And this isn't even AJ. I know I'm going long-winded, but this isn't AJ Debinsa who can put the ball on the ground. This isn't AJ Debinsa who can get 14 free throw attempts in a game. This is a tough jump shot, Shep, 1980s super. It's tough, man. And I have my concerns. Now, again, last thing I'm going to say, he could very well be a top 3 pick. I just have questions.
I get it. All valid. But this is coming from the man that wants guys to go to a situation where they can get busy. He stayed at a public high school where he got busy. He averaged 33 points, 15 rebounds, 2 blocks, 4 assists per game in high school.
Man, 4.
But he led his team to the state title in Georgia.
I'm not knocking any of that, bro.
I get that, but I'm saying like when you have to take all of those shots, like he didn't go to Link, he didn't go to Montverde, he didn't go to Oak Hill. He went to a situation where he had to do what he needed to do. He probably needed to put up those 33 points for his team to win state. They did, which when you're in that situation, you probably got to take bad shots. You have total freedom and the green light, which is the thing that you want guys to go to colleges that give them the same thing. When you got the green light, guys, you got to take bad shots.
Listen, I'm team green light, and I'm gonna push back a little bit on
his light. He
doesn't have a light. He's on the highway, dog. You go as fast as you can.
He's on the Autobahn,
right? And I'm gonna push back on this because yes, all that is good, and you took the challenge. You led what people deem to be family men to the promised land. Props to you, bro. Drake Powell did the same thing, and it was way. And okay, I don't know. Looking at Drake Powell's team, I think his second best player or his next tallest player, like he not even hooping in college. So it's like getting it within the system and still doing what you got to do to break the system is great. But when you there were just plays out there where his teammates was just like,
I get it.
I'm not getting the rock. I'm not getting the rock. And Ralph, we live in Dallas. I've seen NBA players play at the high school level. I've seen Julius, right? Julius was out there. He had one kid that went to, I think, Florida Atlantic or something like Florida International. Yeah,
talking about Julius Randle?
Yeah.
But he had Mickey Mitchell, who was like a top.
I'm not talking about with Mickey. Mickey was, I'm not going to disrespect
like 21.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about one of the times Mickey wasn't there. He had one other D1 kid there. And yes, Julius dominated that game, but it was just like, it wasn't, I'm about to shoot 30 times. Like, come on, man. I've seen, again, and it's kind of similar. Not really similar, but I've seen, not saying he's the same level player, but I've seen RJ Hampton play with a public school team, and he just got it off the muscle, and because he was more athletic and he was, I get it, but I'm just saying, man, he 24 shots a game, Ralph.
He did what he needed to do for his team to win state.
24 shots a game, man.
Hey,
four free throws. That's all I'm gonna say.
I get it.
Field goal attempts, 4 free throws, and we talk about a kid with all the world athleticism. How you only get 4 free throw attempts? It's the same issue I have with VJ Edgecombe. We talked about VJ Edgecombe. All that athleticism, and you only get to the foul line. You only get fouled twice. It's because of your shot selection.
Yeah, no, I get it. I mean, I think Ace can do a better job of mixing up attacking the rim and getting to his pull-up. He loves the pull-up jumper, loves to shoot, plays like, in my opinion, like T-Mac when he lost some of his athleticism. And it's not, I mean, T-Mac when he lost some of his athleticism, he wasn't, I mean, he could still dunk on you, but the hezzy pull-up was pretty predictable, and you couldn't stop it because he's still athletic. He could shoot over the top of guys. And so I do think that Ace needs to get to the line more, needs to attack more. And again, the shot selection, I get it. At the McDonald's game, I felt like his mindset was everybody saying Cooper Flagg is the guy. I'm about to play Cooper one-on-one to show I'm the guy. But again, I actually like that in a sense because it shows me a competitive fire. It shows that.
I get being competitive, but at the same time, you can look crazy trying to be over competitive.
I get that. I'd rather have a guy tone it down than the guy you gotta like spark up.
I agree with that,
and that's my thought. Plus, he's young. He's young, but I get it. I mean, I would like to see him attack the rim a little bit more. I do think he settles. Actually, felt like Brandon Ingram settled for a lot. Not Brandon Ingram, Brandon Miller. When I watched his high school film, he was a little older, and he settled for a lot of mid-range jump shots. Got to Alabama, they wouldn't let him shoot the mid-range jump shot, and he ended up being the second pick in the draft. And he had a
is Ace Bailey as dynamic with the ball. Granted, he is probably 2 years younger than Brandon Miller was at the same grade level or whatever. Yep. Is he as dynamic with the ball as Brandon Miller?
I think if Ace were playing his senior year at 18 and a half, like Brandon Miller was, or maybe, I don't remember exact. I know Brandon Miller was a little bit older. I think he could have been. All right, when we return, I got a question for you. It's about Dylan Harper, another guy projected to be a top 5 pick, top 3 pick. I've seen someone compare him to a bigger Jalen Brunson. Want to hear your thoughts on that. Before we get into the Dylan Harper segment, let's talk about FanDuel. Because if you are an NFL fan, I have news for you. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, which is America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats. You can view live play-by-play, so much more on the same page where you placed your bets. You can get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. And all you have to do is place a $5 bet. That is FanDuel.com, America's #1 sportsbook. Last segment, Dylan Harper. What are your thoughts on Dylan Harper? And do you see the bigger Jalen Brunson comparison?
I don't want to make the Jalen Brunson comparison because Jalen Brunson is the hot name, well-deserved hot name. He was hoping he was getting major buckets. I'm not comfortable to a 6'6" guy. Like, that doesn't really make sense to me. If you want to make a comparison based, and that's partially complexion comparison too, but if you want to make a comparison based off of similar size, similar like playing style, foot speed, athleticism, I think the Cade Cunningham comparison is a little bit more realistic. Will Dylan Harper be as good as Cade Cunningham? I don't know about that one, but Dylan Harper is very, very, very good, and I think he can go as high as 2 in this draft if everything works out.
Any concerns about the athleticism and the lack of like an elite first step? Well, going back, people may have said that about
Cade.
Jalen Brunson.
They said that about Cade too.
I mean, Cade was still everybody's favorite to be number one. It was like he was the guy that.
But that's because Cade was cerebral. Like Cade knows how to play basketball, knew how to play high level pick and roll.
But he had more turnovers than assists. I just think Cade came into that season crowned as number one, and he went to Oklahoma State where just winning some games like put him in a better situation. I do think like a lot of people glossed over the fact that he had more turnovers than assists when he was considered to be, a high level playmaker and passer. He was fresh off the U19s. And I think part of that was also like there are some people, that myself included, that thought he was like the black Luka Doncic in a sense, as far as like not being like this elite athlete, but just bigger, stronger playmaker that can probably play 1 through 3 and maybe even 4 if you need him to, and can make high level passes. So
but part of the Cade thing was that some people were listing him at 6'8" when he was really like 6'5", 6'6".
Yeah, I do remember 6'8".
that kills you. I mean, the difference between 6'8" means you could play the 3 and the 4, right? At 6'5", 6'6", you're playing the 2 and the 3, and in his case, he's playing the 1. But I mean, even with like Cade's, I guess you could say red flags, like he's cold at basketball. Like he's just in the not good situation, but like he checks all the boxes that you want. He's a future All-Star, I think. But Dylan Harper, to answer your question, I don't really have concerns about that because, in my opinion, he's going to be a high pick and roll usage player. He's not going to be playing one-on-one unless it's a switch. So to me, I don't necessarily think you have to have the meanest first step, the best athleticism, agility on the offensive end if you're a pick and roll player, because that's, to me, more so about your pace, your feel, getting to your spots, making shots. And again, if that's what you say, well, that's what Jalen Brunson does, and that's cool too. But like, I don't feel like Dylan has to have like the meanest first step. It's not that much of a concern to me because his feel for the game, his basketball IQ makes up for the lack of athleticism in this example.
Yeah, he's like a weird athlete in a sense. Like when I watch him play, I see he's not blowing by guys with an elite first step. He can beat guys off the dribble, but then if there's like an athletic defender that he can't necessarily beat with the first step, he has the strength to like muscle his way to his sweet spots. Do you think he's a 1 or a 2, or do you think that's not a concern? Because I know sometimes you want to put a guy in a box. Is he a 1? Is he a 2? And then if you say it's a combo, that means he's a point guard that can't pass. What do you think his long-term position is?
I think under my whatever, he's a playmaking guard. So whatever you want to call that, like 1, 2, like you can play with another playmaking guard or you can play with the playmaking wing. Like it doesn't really matter. He is a pick and roll primary ball handler. That's what position he plays.
So now, you think position he can play with any guard?
Yeah, he should be able to because he can catch and shoot. Right, he's not passing up open shots. He's got a good feel for the game. So if you say, let's say he's drafted to Brooklyn, right, at number 2, and Cam Thomas is there, they won't have any issue coexisting because he can make plays, and we know Cam Thomas is going to shoot the ball every single time he gets it. That's who Ace Bailey might be. I know he said I don't like the height.
There's only one.
He might be a 6'10" Cam Thomas.
There's only one. Ace Bailey averaged 3.9 assists in high school. There's only one. My man is the all-time leading scorer at Oak Hill.
Cam Thomas is?
Yes. So if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong, but I think he is. Like Cam Thomas was, you follow the NBA. When he was starting, he was averaging like 40 a game.
Yeah.
And then they took him out the starting lineup. But again, if Cam Thomas was 6'8", I think he'd probably get a little bit. He wouldn't be coming off the bench if he was 6'8".
Hey, it's different when you see. I really like Dylan Harper. I think he can play alongside any kind of guard, every kind of guard, because he has size and he can make plays and he can pass and he's unselfish too. Which that's my favorite attribute about some of these young guys is the unselfishness. Because you know what, man, the ultimate goal is to get to the league and do what you got to do. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Dylan, he's a pro. His older brother's a pro. His dad's a pro. He has it's two things I like. One, sometimes kids who are the sons of pros who probably grew up with privilege don't have this dog, or it's kind of like what Melo said between him and his son. He was like, it was a different set of circumstances, that a different set of hunger. Melo was trying to like get out the hood, while his son, who's very good, doesn't have the same pressure on his back. Dylan, he's got the dog in him. He's competitive. So I do like that about him, but also I think there are some clear advantages that he has because he has the pace and the mindset. It's almost like he's been there before. And that's what I like about him. Now, my question to you is, and I think I probably know the answer to this, if you had to choose between the two, you're the Nets and you're on the clock at number
Dylan
2.
Harper.
You're going Dylan Harper over.
I already got Cam Thomas, man. I don't need another. No, but for real, I'd take Dylan Harper. I think he's a very good foundational piece going forward. Again, if everything checks out, the shooting, the playmaking, obviously the size is going to check out. I think he's a really good piece going forward because, again, Brooklyn is in it for the long haul. You're not going to get somebody that's going to turn around that franchise tonight unless you get the number 1 pick. And even then, as much as I like Cooper Flagg, he's going to need more. They're going to need more. So I really like Dylan Harper. At number 2, him and Traore are the best point guards in this draft. Maybe Ben Serif has something to say about that here too, but I'm a fan.
You forgot about Boogie Fland.
And Boogie, he's got to have to get some opportunities, man. But Boogie Fland.
He might be on that Rob Dylan. Rob Dillingham. All right, higher ceiling. If they both maximize their potential, fully maximize it, who's the better prospect in your opinion?
Okay, so excuse me. There is a world where Ace Bailey figures it out, and he's a large Jalen Brown, right? But I don't know. Jalen Brown's not a good playmaker. I think he finally got to like a 1-to-1 assist to turnover ratio.
Yeah.
It took him some time. Very good shooter. He gets to the line, though. So I guess there is a case for Ace Bailey to turn into a 6'9", 6'10" version, and you absolutely take that. I still think there's a version of Ace Bailey that's Michael Porter Jr. with the bad back that, great shooter, limited off the dribble. What kind of shot was that? Oh, he made it kind of guy. But higher ceiling, I think I'm going to still go with Dylan Harper having a higher ceiling. I know that's going to go against the grain, but I don't care. I'm the grain, as my man Prodigy once said.
You think they know who Prodigy is?
They should, man. That's one of the great philosophers of American literature right there.
Well, that wraps up this episode of the Locked On NBA Big Board Podcast. Once again, thank you for making the Locked On NBA Big Board Podcast your first listen of the day. Go check out Locked On NBA, where the local experts keep you updated on all of the biggest storylines ahead of the season. You can find Locked On NBA on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. Also, stay locked in with us because we have a big surprise. I guess it is a surprise, but we got something big that we're working on doing. It will probably be one of the first of its kind. It'll be totally exclusive to the Locked On NBA Big Board channel. So stay locked in with us. Once again, it's Rafael and James Barlowe, and we are out of here. Make sure my peace signs get in the box.